The house was quiet except for the soft whisper of rain against the windows and the distant hum of the dishwasher finishing its cycle. I had just finished cleaning the kitchen, methodically wiping down every surface the way I did every night after Sarah went to tuck in our 8-year-old son, Michael. The routine was comforting, predictable in a life that had become increasingly unpredictable. Or it had been, until I heard her voice drifting down the hallway like poison in the air. I was heading toward our bedroom, my mind already shifting to tomorrow's engineering reports, when her words stopped me cold. Not the tone. That was the same gentle whisper she'd always used for bedtime stories. It was the content that froze me in place just outside Michael's door. If you're enjoying this already, smash like, subscribe, and most importantly, give this video a hype. And I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country down in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Listen to me, baby. Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper, but in the silence of our suburban home, it cut through me like a blade dipped in ice. Your daddy? He's not really your daddy anymore. Uncle Marcus is going to take care of us now. He's stronger than daddy, smarter than daddy. He can give us things your daddy never could. My hand froze on the doorframe, my wedding ring catching the hallway light. Through the crack in the door, I could see Michael's confused face in the dim glow of his Batman nightlight, his small brow furrowed as he looked up at his mother with those wide, trusting eyes that looked so much like mine. "But Daddy reads to me every night," Michael said, his voice small and uncertain, clutching his worn stuffed elephant. "And he helps with my math homework when it's hard. And he makes funny voices for all the characters." Sarah's laugh was soft but cruel, a sound I'd never heard from her before in 12 years of marriage. "Oh, sweetie, that's just because he has nothing better to do. Uncle Marcus has a real job, an important job. He makes real money. Your daddy is, well, he's useless, baby. But don't worry. Marcus will be your new daddy soon, and everything will be so much better." I watched my son's face crumple, saw the way he pulled his blanket closer to his chin, his elephant squeezed tight against his chest. "I don't want a new daddy. I like my daddy." "You will like Marcus better, I promise. He's taking us on a vacation to Disney World next month." "Has your daddy ever taken you to Disney World?" "No, but Daddy said we were saving money for when I'm older." "Saving money," Sarah scoffed quietly. "Baby, Marcus doesn't have to save money. He has plenty of money. He bought Mommy this beautiful necklace today." She touched something at her throat that caught the light. "And he's going to buy you so many toys and video games. All the things your daddy says we can't afford." Michael was quiet for a long moment, and I could see him processing this information with the serious expression he got when working through a difficult math problem. Finally, he asked, "What about Daddy? Where will he go?" "Daddy will find somewhere else to live. Maybe with Uncle Jake. Adults do this sometimes, baby. It's called divorce. It means Mommy and Daddy don't live together anymore, but you'll live with Mommy and Marcus." "But I want to live with Daddy, too." Sarah's voice took on an edge I recognized, the tone she used when her patience was wearing thin. "Michael, listen to me carefully. Your daddy can't take care of you the way Marcus can. Daddy works at a boring job and makes boring money and lives a boring life. Marcus is exciting. Marcus is successful. Marcus is everything your daddy isn't." I stepped back from the door, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I was sure they could hear it. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to burst through that door, to confront her, to defend myself, to grab my son and run. But something deeper, calmer, more strategic held me back. Instead, I walked away, down the hall, past our bedroom with its unmade bed and her clothes scattered across the floor, past the family photos lining the walls, photos that now felt like evidence of a lie I'd been living. Out to the garage where I sat in my 10-year-old Honda Accord with the engine off, staring at nothing, my hands shaking. My phone buzzed against my leg. A text from my brother Jake. "Hey man, how's the family? Haven't heard from you in a while." I stared at the message for a full minute before typing back. "Everything's about to change." "What do you mean? Can I come over? I need to talk." "Of course." "Everything okay? Number. Nothing's okay." I sat in my car for another 5 minutes, letting the magnitude of what I'd just witnessed sink in. 12 years of marriage, 8 years of fatherhood, a mortgage we'd signed together, dreams we'd shared, a life we'd built. And she was dismantling it all with whispered lies to our son. But more than that, she was trying to erase me, to make our son believe I was worthless, inadequate, expendable. That hurt worse than the affair, worse than the deception. She wasn't just leaving me. She was trying to make it so I'd never existed in Michael's heart. I started the engine and backed out of the driveway, taking one last look at the house where I'd thought I was building a life. The windows glowed warm and yellow against the November darkness, looking for all the world like the perfect family home. It was all a lie. Jake's apartment was across town in a converted warehouse district that Sarah had always called too hip for normal people. Tonight, surrounded by exposed brick and industrial fixtures, it felt like a sanctuary. "You look like hell," Jake said as he opened the door. At 35, my younger brother still had the lean build of the college athlete he'd once been, but his face was creased with concern as he took in my appearance. "I feel worse than I look." He handed me a beer without asking and settled into his leather armchair while I paced the length of his living room like a caged animal. For the next 20 minutes, I told him everything. Sarah's late nights, her secretive phone calls, the new clothes and jewelry, and finally, the devastating conversation I'd overheard. "You should have confronted her right then." Jake slammed his beer down on the coffee table hard enough to slosh foam over the rim. "What kind of man just walks away from that?" "She's poisoning your kid against you, David." "The smart kind," I said, surprising myself with how calm my voice sounded despite the rage boiling in my chest. "The kind who wants his son back." Jake stopped mid-pace and stared at me. "What do you mean?" I set my untouched beer on his kitchen counter and turned to face him fully. "Think about it, Jake. She's been setting this up for months, maybe longer. All those late nights she claimed to be working on design projects. All those times she said she was out with her girlfriends. She's been planning this, laying groundwork, building a narrative." "What kind of narrative?" "That I'm the problem. The dead weight. The reason she can't be happy." I ran my hands through my hair, feeling every one of my 37 years. If I'd burst in there like some enraged caveman, if I'd screamed and yelled and made a scene, what would have happened? Jake's expression slowly shifted as understanding dawned. "She'd have painted you as unstable." "Exactly. Dangerous. A threat to Michael's well-being. And when it came time for custody hearings, who do you think the court would believe? The calm, collected mother with the stable boyfriend? Or the angry, volatile father who flies into rages? Jesus." Jake sank back into his chair. "So what are you going to do?" "I'm going to be smarter than she is. I'm going to build a case so airtight that no judge in the world would even consider giving her primary custody." Jake leaned forward. "What kind of case?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the voice memo app. I was recording my mental checklist for tomorrow when I heard her talking to Michael. Everything she said is right here, time-stamped and crystal clear. Is that legal? In this state, you only need one-party consent to record a conversation. Since it happened in my own home, I'm covered. I paused the app and looked at my brother. But this is just the beginning. If Sarah thinks she can erase me from my son's life, she's about to learn what a real fight looks like. The next morning, I was sitting in the office of Patricia Williams, one of the city's most respected family law attorneys, by 9 a.m. sharp. Her office was in a gleaming downtown high-rise, all polished wood and legal degrees. But Patricia herself was refreshingly direct. A woman in her late 50s with steel gray eyes and the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd seen every dirty trick in the book. "Let me make sure I understand," Patricia said, her eyes studying me over her reading glasses as she reviewed the notes I'd provided. "You witnessed your wife attempting to alienate your child's affections and prepare him to accept another man as his father figure?" "That's correct. And you didn't confront her." "I recorded it instead." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "Recorded it?" I pulled out my phone and placed it on her desk. "Voice memo app. I always have it running when I'm doing my evening routine. Helps me remember things for work the next day." Last night, I was recording my mental checklist when I heard this. I played the audio. Sarah's voice filled the small office, each word a nail in the coffin of our marriage. When it finished, Patricia was quiet for a long moment, making notes on her yellow legal pad. Finally, she leaned back in her chair. Mr. Thompson, this changes everything. In cases of parental alienation, evidence like this is gold. But we need more. What kind of more? Financial records, evidence of adultery, background information on this Marcus person, documentation of how this situation is affecting your son. She leaned forward, her expression serious. Most importantly, we need to establish a pattern of behavior that shows she's not acting in Michael's best interests. Are you prepared to fight for full custody? The question hung in the air between us. Full custody meant taking Michael away from his mother. It meant a prolonged legal battle that would drain our finances and probably traumatize my son. It meant admitting that the family I'd thought I was building for 8 years was not just broken, but toxic. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to protect my son, I said finally. Patricia nodded approvingly. Then let's get to work. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a different person entirely. During the day, I went to work at Morrison and Associates Engineering, where I'd been employed for 12 years, designing structural systems for commercial buildings. I acted normal, participated in meetings, reviewed blueprints, met deadlines. I came home to family dinners where Sarah played the role of loving wife with an Oscar-worthy performance, asking about my day, laughing at my jokes, even initiating casual physical contact that now made my skin crawl. But every evening, after everyone was asleep, I became a detective in my own life. The financial records were the easiest part. Our joint checking account told a story Sarah probably thought I'd never piece together. Cash withdrawals that corresponded exactly with her girls' nights out. Charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to. Even a hotel room booked 3 towns. Over on a Tuesday when she'd claimed to be visiting her sick aunt in Connecticut. But it was the credit card statements that really opened my eyes. Sarah had always handled our finances. She was better with numbers, she claimed, and I'd been happy to let her manage the household budget while I focused on my career. Now I discovered charges I'd never seen. Jewelry from Tiffany & Company, designer clothing from boutiques I'd never heard of, expensive lingerie from shops that definitely weren't buying for me. The private investigator Patricia recommended was a former police detective named Carmen Rodriguez. She was a small, intense woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and the methodical approach of someone who'd spent 20 years putting together cases for the district attorney's office. Your wife's boyfriend is Marcus Chen, Carmen said, sliding a thick manila folder across the conference table in Patricia's office. 34 years old, lives or lived in the Riverside Towers downtown. Works in sales for a tech startup called Innovate Tech Solutions. Or worked, I should say. He was fired last month for falsifying expense reports. Fired for what, exactly? Fraud, essentially. He was billing the company for personal expenses while claiming they were business-related. Hotels, dinners, entertainment, even clothing purchases. Sound familiar? My stomach clenched as I recognized the pattern. He was using company money to wine and dine my wife. Gets better, Carmen continued, flipping through her notes with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. 3 months ago, he was evicted from his downtown apartment for non-payment of rent. According to the building manager, he owed 4 months back rent and had been dodging the landlord for weeks. Guess where he's been staying since then? The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The nights Sarah claimed to be working late on her design projects. Your wife's been housing her unemployed, dishonest boyfriend while telling your son that you're the worthless one. Carmen's voice was professionally neutral, but I could see the disgust in her dark eyes. The irony is pretty thick. Patricia looked up from the financial statements Carmen had provided. There's more here, David. Did you know your wife opened a credit card in your name last month? The room seemed to tilt slightly. What? $15,000 limit. She's already maxed it out. Jewelry, clothing, expensive dinners. She turned the page, her expression growing grimmer. There's also a loan application for $50,000, using your salary and credit score as collateral. She listed the purpose as home renovation. We're not renovating anything, No, but $50,000 would make a nice nest egg for starting a new life, wouldn't it? The full scope of Sarah's betrayal was becoming clear. This wasn't just an affair. It was a calculated dismantling of our life together. She wasn't just leaving me. She was stealing from me in the process. Carmen, what else do we have on Marcus Chen? Patricia asked. Carmen flipped through her notes with the practiced efficiency of a seasoned investigator. 2 DUIs in the past 5 years, both plea bargained down to reckless driving. A restraining order filed by an ex-girlfriend in 2019. Domestic violence allegations, though charges were eventually dropped when she declined to testify. What kind of domestic violence? According to the police report, Jessica Martinez claimed he'd pushed her during an argument, threw her phone against the wall when she tried to call for help, and threatened to destroy her career if she left him. She's a teacher at Roosevelt Elementary. The thought of this man around my son made me physically ill. And here's the really interesting part, Carmen continued. He's married. Married? Separated but not divorced. His estranged wife, Linda Chen, lives in Los Angeles with their 2 kids, a boy and a girl, ages 6 and 9. He owes approximately $30,000 in back child support. I felt like I was going to be sick. This is the man Sarah wants to introduce as my son's new father figure. A deadbeat dad who abandoned his own kids and has a history of domestic violence. Patricia was making notes furiously. Carmen, I need you to dig deeper into this Marcus situation. I want to know about his employment history, his financial situation, any criminal background we might have missed. Most importantly, I want to know if there are other women he's done this to. Already on it, Carmen replied. I've got a contact at LAPD who's going to pull his full record, and I'm planning to have a conversation with the ex-girlfriend who filed the restraining order. If she's willing to talk, her testimony could be devastating. What about the wife in California? I asked. Linda Chen. I've reached out through intermediaries. She's very interested in talking. Apparently, Marcus owes more than just child support. He cleaned out their joint accounts before he left her with a house she couldn't afford and 2 traumatized kids. Patricia closed her file and looked at me seriously. David, I want you to understand what we're building here. This isn't just a custody case anymore. We're looking at identity theft, fraud, possibly child endangerment. Sarah has made some very serious mistakes, and Marcus appears to be a habitual criminal. But that also means this is going to get ugly. How ugly? They're going to fight back. When cornered, people like this get desperate. They're going to attack your character, your parenting, your fitness as a father. They might even try to claim you're abusing Michael or that you're mentally unstable. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Michael's confused face in the dim light of his bedroom, about the way he'd clutched his stuffed elephant when his mother told him I was useless. I'm prepared for whatever it takes. Patricia moved with the swift precision of a surgeon. By Friday morning, we had filed for emergency temporary orders with the family court, requesting immediate custody evaluation and financial protection. The courthouse was the imposing limestone building downtown, its classical columns and formal architecture designed to convey the weight of justice. Judge Harrison's courtroom was wood-paneled and austere, with American and state flags flanking the bench. I'd never been inside a courtroom before, and the formal atmosphere made everything feel surreal. Your Honor, Patricia addressed Judge Margaret Harrison, a stern woman in her 60s with silver hair and a reputation for brooking no nonsense in her courtroom. My client has evidence of ongoing parental alienation and financial misconduct that poses an immediate threat to the welfare of the minor child. Sarah's attorney was a nervous-looking young man named Peterson who couldn't have been more than 30. He kept adjusting his tie and shuffling through papers like he was looking for something he'd lost. Your Honor, Peterson stood up quickly, almost knocking over his water glass. These allegations are completely unfounded. Mrs. Thompson is a devoted mother who has never done anything to harm her child's relationship with his father. These emergency motions are nothing more than a vindictive husband's attempt to— Mr. Peterson, Judge Harrison interrupted, her voice cutting through the courtroom like a blade. I'll hear the evidence before I hear the arguments. Patricia placed my phone on the evidence table and adjusted the volume. Your Honor, this is a recording of Mrs. Thompson speaking to the minor child in his bedroom on the night of November 15th. The recording was made inadvertently but legally on Mr. Thompson's phone. Sarah's voice filled the courtroom, and the effect was devastating. In the sterile environment of the courtroom, her words sounded even more damaging than they had in Patricia's office. I watched my wife's face drain of color as her own voice condemned her. Your daddy is, well, he's useless, baby. But don't worry. Marcus will be your new daddy soon. Judge Harrison's expression remained neutral, but I saw her make several notes on her pad. Furthermore, Your Honor, Patricia continued, we have evidence of ongoing financial fraud. She presented a stack of documents to the court clerk. Credit card accounts opened without Mr. Thompson's knowledge, loan applications submitted using his income and credit information, and systematic depletion of marital assets. Peterson whispered frantically to Sarah, but she shook her head and stood up. Your Honor, I can explain. Judge Harrison looked at her over her reading glasses. Mrs. Thompson, did you open a credit card account using your husband's name and social security number without his knowledge or consent? Sarah's hands were visibly shaking. Yes, but it's a yes or no question, Mrs. Thompson. Yes. And did you apply for a personal loan using his income and credit information without his consent? Yes, but it was for our family, for our future. Mr. Peterson, please control your client. Judge Harrison's voice could have frozen water. Mrs. Thompson, you've just confessed to identity theft and fraud in my courtroom. Patricia seized the moment. Your Honor, we also have evidence that Mrs. Thompson's paramour, Marcus Chen, has a criminal history including domestic violence, multiple DUIs, and outstanding child support obligations to his estranged wife and children in California. What does this have to do with the current case? Peterson asked desperately. Mrs. Thompson has been grooming the minor child to accept this man as his father figure while systematically destroying the child's relationship with his biological father. She's also been using Mr. Chen's influence to commit financial crimes against her husband. Judge Harrison reviewed the documents in silence that stretched on for what felt like hours. Finally, she looked up. The evidence presented suggests a pattern of behavior that is detrimental to the minor child's best interests and potentially criminal in nature. She turned to Sarah. Mrs. Thompson, your actions as described in this recording constitute a clear attempt at parental alienation, which this court takes very seriously. Peterson tried one more time. Your Honor, my client is a loving mother who… Mr. Peterson, your client just admitted to committing identity theft. She recorded herself telling her 8-year-old son that his father is useless and should be replaced by her boyfriend. I've seen enough. The temporary orders were exactly what Patricia had hoped for, and more. I was granted temporary primary custody of Michael pending a full investigation. All joint accounts were frozen. Sarah was ordered to have no unsupervised contact with Michael until she completed a court-mandated psychological evaluation. And most importantly, Marcus Chen was ordered to have no contact with Michael whatsoever. Additionally, Judge Harrison continued, Mrs. Thompson, you are hereby ordered to cease all contact with Mr. Marcus Chen until this matter is resolved. Any violation of these orders will result in contempt of court charges and possible jail time. Sarah collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Peterson put an awkward hand on her shoulder but looked completely defeated. As we left the courthouse, Patricia pulled me aside. This was a good start, David, but it's just the beginning. Sarah and Marcus are going to regroup and come back swinging. We need to be ready. What's our next move? We document everything, every interaction, every attempt at contact, every violation of the court orders. And we dig deeper into Marcus's background. I have a feeling we've only scratched the surface of what this man is capable of. But the real victory was yet to come. With Michael safely staying at Jake's house during the custody transition, an arrangement that broke my heart but was necessary for his protection, I had time to dig deeper into the web of deception Sarah and Marcus had woven around our family. Carmen's investigation had uncovered Marcus's pattern of financial instability and dishonesty, but we needed more to ensure he could never get near my son. The call came 3 days after the court hearing. The ex-girlfriend who filed the restraining order, Carmen told me as we sat in a downtown coffee shop, her name is Jessica Martinez. She's willing to talk, but only if we guarantee her identity will be protected until trial. What's she afraid of? Marcus. Even after 2 years, she's still looking over her shoulder. The video call was set up in Patricia's office, with Jessica appearing on screen from her apartment in Phoenix, where she'd moved to get away from Marcus. She was a petite woman with dark hair and intelligent eyes that held a wariness I recognized from my own mirror. At first, he was charming, Jessica explained, her voice soft but steady as Patricia and I listened intently. He seemed successful, confident, generous. He took me to expensive restaurants, bought me jewelry, talked about our future together. He seemed like everything I'd been looking for. When did you realize things weren't what they seemed? Patricia asked gently. Jessica's expression grew distant. It was gradual. Little things at first. He'd pick up the check at dinner, but then ask me to spot him $20 for gas. He'd buy me an expensive necklace, but then borrow $50 from my purse. He always had explanations, cash flow problems, his paycheck was delayed, his credit card was having issues. What about his living situation? He told me he owned a downtown loft, but I was never allowed to see it. He said he was having it renovated. For 8 months, we only met at my place or at restaurants and hotels. When I finally demanded to see where he lived, he took me to this rundown apartment that clearly belonged to someone else. There were family photos on the walls, kids' toys scattered around. He claimed it was his brother's place and he was house-sitting. I leaned forward. Did you ever suspect he was married? Not at first. He was so convincing, so detailed in his lies. He'd talk about his ex-girlfriend who'd moved to California, show me photos of his kids from a previous relationship. I later realized those were stock photos he'd downloaded from the internet. Patricia made notes as Jessica continued. Tell us about the restraining order. Jessica's expression hardened, and for a moment I saw a flash of the strength that had enabled her to escape. When I started asking too many questions, when I began to see through his lies, he became different, not just angry, but cruel. He'd show up at my work unannounced, demand to know who I'd been talking to, accuse me of cheating if I didn't answer his calls immediately. Did he ever become violent? The first time was when I told him I needed space to think about our relationship. He grabbed my wrist so hard he left bruises, told me I was being dramatic and ungrateful. He said I'd never find anyone better than him, that I was lucky he was willing to put up with my issues. Your issues? That's how he operated. He'd undermine your confidence, make you feel like you were crazy for questioning him. If I caught him in a lie, he'd turn it around and say I was paranoid. If I objected to his behavior, he'd say I was overreacting. Patricia and I exchanged glances. The pattern was becoming clear. The night I decided to leave him, Jessica continued, he completely lost it. I'd discovered he'd been using my credit cards without permission, running up thousands of dollars in charges. When I confronted him, he threw my phone against the wall, screamed that I was trying to destroy him. What did he say exactly? Jessica closed her eyes, remembering. He said if I left him, he'd make sure I never worked in education again. Said he had connections at the school district, that he could make up stories about me that would end my career. He knew I'd worked so hard to become a teacher, and he used that against me. Did he follow through on those threats? He tried. After I filed the restraining order and moved to Phoenix, he called my principal, claimed I was having inappropriate relationships with students. Complete fabrications, but it was terrifying. He was so convincing, so manipulative. If my principal hadn't known me for years, if I hadn't had a spotless record. She shuddered. After the call ended, Patricia and I sat in silence for a moment. This man is dangerous, David, Patricia said finally. And he's been living in your house, around your son. The thought made me physically ill. What's our next step? We get everything Jessica just told us in an official affidavit. We document Marcus's pattern of financial fraud, emotional abuse, and threats. And we prepare for the possibility that he might try the same tactics on you. She was right to be concerned. That evening, as I was having dinner at Jake's with Michael, my phone rang. Unknown number. David Thompson? The voice was smooth, confident, with just a hint of an accent I couldn't place. Who is this? Marcus Chen. I think we need to talk. I looked at Michael, who was focused on his chicken nuggets, and stepped into Jake's kitchen. We have nothing to talk about. I think we do. See, you've got the wrong idea about me and Sarah. This isn't some sordid affair. We love each other. And Michael needs stability, not some bitter father trying to destroy his mother's happiness. Stay away from my son. Marcus's laugh was cold. Your son? David, let's be realistic here. You're a middle-aged engineer with a boring job and no imagination. Sarah needs more than that. Michael needs more than that. I can give them things you never could. Like what? A criminal record? Outstanding child support debt? A history of domestic violence? There was a pause, and when Marcus spoke again, his voice had lost all pretense of friendliness. You don't know what you're dealing with, Thompson. I've been building relationships in this town while you've been hiding behind your lawyer's skirts. People know me. People like me. When this goes to court, who do you think they're going to believe? Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. Sarah's going to get Michael back, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. The question is whether you want to make this easy on everyone, or if you want to find out just how ugly I can make your life. The line went dead. I called Patricia immediately. He's getting desperate, she said after I recounted the conversation. That's good. Desperate people make mistakes. But it also means he's dangerous. I want you to document every contact attempt, every threat, every violation of the court orders. And David? Yeah? Be careful. Men like Marcus don't go down quietly. 3 weeks after I caught Sarah whispering poison into Michael's ear, she asked to meet at Cafe Luna to discuss our future. She didn't know Carmen had been digging, or that Marcus had already made a fatal mistake. Sarah arrived polished, rehearsed. She spoke of our failing marriage, her happiness with Marcus, how an amicable break would be best for Michael. Interesting, I said. When did you decide our marriage wasn't working? Before or after you stole $15,000 with my credit card? Before or after you tried to take out a $50,000 loan in my name? Her face drained. Those were for us. Or maybe you mean Marcus's resources, $30,000 in unpaid child support, fired for embezzlement, 2 DUIs, a restraining order from his ex? You're lying. I pressed play on my phone. Her voice filled the cafe. Your daddy is useless, baby. Marcus will be your new daddy soon. Sarah gasped, tears running. You recorded me? You tried to erase me from my son's life. Of course I recorded you. I slid a folder across the table. Judge Harrison signed a restraining order yesterday. Marcus is barred from coming near us. He's already in a cell in California. Jessica turned in his threatening voicemails. Sarah broke down, whispering, What happens to us? There is no us. Michael will be safe with me. You'll see him only if the court approves, after counseling and restitution. I left her sobbing over her untouched coffee, the reality of Marcus's betrayal finally sinking in. 2 weeks later, we faced Judge Harrison. Sarah had a new lawyer, Catherine Stevens, who painted me as vindictive. Arrests, investigators, frozen assets. But Patricia was ready. She played a jailhouse voicemail. Marcus, drunk and furious, vowing to come for me and Michael. The courtroom froze. Then Patricia revealed Sarah's visit to him in jail, promising to raid Michael's college fund for his defense. The judge's glare could cut glass. Mrs. Thompson, you would steal your child's future to defend a man who just threatened him? Sarah stammered. Yes, but... There is no but. Patricia added testimonies from Marcus's exes in Arizona and California. Stories of fraud, abandonment, threats. Judge Harrison delivered her ruling. Mr. Thompson is granted full custody. Mrs. Thompson will have supervised visits only after counseling and restitution. All stolen funds repaid within 90 days. Court costs and legal fees included. And if Mr. Chen comes within a mile of this family, I will see he spends maximum time behind bars. Sarah collapsed, mascara streaking her face. Stephen steadied her, but it was over. The gavel echoed like a final door slamming shut. As we gathered our papers, Patricia leaned over to me. It's over, David. You've got your son back. But even as relief flooded through me, I knew the hard part was just beginning. 3 months after the custody hearing, Michael and I were settling into our new life. I'd sold the Maplewood house and moved us into a smaller bungalow in Riverside. Bright rooms, hardwood floors, and a backyard where Michael could play. It felt like a fresh start. One evening over homework, he asked, "Dad, why did Mom say those things about you? The ones in court?" I set down his pencil. At 8, he already carried a seriousness beyond his years. Sometimes adults make bad choices. Your mom thought chasing something new would make her happy, but she lost sight of what mattered. What matters? You, I said. Our family. Honesty. Taking care of the people you love. He nodded. Do you think Mom will get better? I hope so. She's getting help now. Maybe one day she'll be ready to be the mom you need. And Uncle Marcus? He wasn't really your uncle. He made terrible choices too, and now he's facing the consequences. He won't be part of our lives. Before I could say more, the doorbell rang. A delivery man handed me a certified envelope. Inside was Sarah's letter. David, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. Therapy is helping me see I was the problem. Not you, not even Marcus. I feared being ordinary and poisoned everything good. I'm paying back what I stole, and I've written Michael a letter for when he's ready. You're the father he deserves. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. Sarah, I read it twice, then tucked it away. Maybe someday Michael would want to see it. For now, he had math problems and a bedtime story waiting. I had my son back, and that was enough. 4 months later, Carmen called. You need to see this. On her desk were licenses, credit records, all with the same face. Marcus Chen isn't real, she said. His real name is Martin Christopher Kowalski. He's been living lies for years. I stared at the evidence. So Sarah fell in love with a fraud? Exactly. His downtown loft, his job, everything was stolen. And he's done this before. 2 other women lost homes, credit, savings. He destroys lives, then vanishes. Carmen leaned closer. The real Marcus Chen had a sister. She's been trying to clear her brother's name since Martin stole his identity. The FBI is already involved. Within weeks, Martin faced federal charges: wire fraud, identity theft, financial crimes. The local restraining order violations seemed trivial in comparison. Mr. Thompson, this is Linda Chen. We need to talk. On a video call, Linda explained. The real Marcus had been her brother-in-law. Martin used his death to build a new persona while leaving Linda penniless and owing $30,000 in child support. He took everything, she said bitterly. Even my kids' college funds. I stayed quiet because he threatened to prove I was unfit. But when I heard what he did to you, I knew I couldn't anymore. Her testimony sealed the case. The prosecutor called Martin a predator who studied women, became their fantasy, then stripped them of everything. It left me questioning Sarah's role. How much had she chosen, and how much had she been conned? 6 months later, at Michael's graduation, Sarah sat quietly with her supervisor. She was in therapy, working, even paying small restitution. Then I saw him, Martin, thinner, humbled, in a cheap suit. I wanted to apologize, he said. Prison changed me. I'm trying to be better. Michael came to my side. Dad says you made bad choices. Your dad is right, Martin said softly. When Michael left, Martin added, I know I ruined lives. I'm sorry. I just needed you to hear it. I studied him. No longer a threat, just a broken man. The best thing you can do, I said, is stay away from us. As he walked off, pity flickered. No forgiveness, but pity. Michael ran back, beaming with his honor roll certificate. Can we get ice cream? 2 scoops? I hugged him tight. Absolutely. 2 scoops. For the first time in months, I laughed.